You need to make sure if you're an elected official that you're not only serving to the letter but also the spirit of the law. And I think that that's something just as citizens we ought to expect out of all elected officials. And if we don't meet that criteria, I think that we take people out at the polling place or we call for them to resign is incredibly inappropriate because we have a very sacred trust that we're dealing with in terms of the people back home who are counting on us to be able to do the right thing.
I think Fannie Mae was one of, I think President Obama was their number one, contributor. I mean, they contributed to him more than anybody else. I think they also contributed to Hillary Clinton. That's just from recollection. But does that manipulate the system? I think it sort of does. And through some of his President Obama's organizations, especially Acorn and some others, that have really tried to push for low-interest loans to people who can't afford them. Yes, I think that's exacerbated the problem.
When we're looking at somebody like Timothy Geithner and TurboTax problems, we're handling a lot of very important financial issues for the federal government. I think the president actually hires and fires in that position.
I think it's completely inappropriate for the government to get involved in auto industry bailouts, and I think it's very inappropriate for him to say who should be leading a private corporation.
I mean, we expanded government in the last 8 years. We've expanded the size of the military, we've expanded our footprint overseas, we've expanded war, we've expanded suffering. We've done some god-awful horrible things in the last 8 years. And we're not going to be able to fix them overnight. It's going to take some time and some effort. But for the Republicans to say Obama is expanding government, well, that's just what they say because they're trying to generate fear and trying to generate people to vote for them. But it still isn't working very well. People understand the Republicans at this point have no solutions to sell.
The governor's plans for the full continuity of government are now being worked on in great earnest. The one thing that has blocked some of their planning is the fact that there is no constitutional way to plan to move these.
All of this excess funding and bailout money is going to basically allow the government to branch in to a lot of private business areas that they've never been able to control before. That in itself is pretty scary for me.
It's completely inappropriate for the government to get involved in auto industry bailouts, and I think it's very inappropriate for him to say who should be leading a private corporation. I think that the companies, if they are going to fail, should be allowed to do so. And I don't think the government should step in and rescue them with our dollars.
The Republicans say Obama is expanding government, but that doesn't mean it's true.
I don't think a lot of Americans now fully appreciate the power that they have to be able to exercise that voice. Everyone who's a representative is strictly that. You came from the ranks, and one way or another to the ranks you will once again return. And elected officials will listen to the power of the voice of the American people.
No, I think the Republicans have completely mischaracterized what Obama is doing. I mean, I think if you remember back to when this really started, we really knew we were in trouble. John McCain, Republican John McCain, said, let's not debate. I need to go to Washington and help straighten this around. That was where the fear tactics started to come from. Obama is trying to be honest with the American people, which I think is very important. I mean, I think it is important that we say, look, these are hard times, and getting out of this is not going to be easy. There's not a magic pill we can take to fix this economy overnight.
We have a budget that ensures vital safety net services will continue for our most vulnerable populations, the people who live at the margin. Just as families and businesses all across Colorado are doing, we made some very tough choices. We cut programs, we made transfers, we used the state's reserve, and thanks to the Recovery Act, we prevented hundreds of millions in cuts to K-12 education, higher education, and healthcare.
But that the oversight of the stimulus money was not done right. There's tons of money just going missing, just disappearing that people don't know about. I think there's a lot of corruption in our government right now. I read a quote the other day that said, if you don't take it upon yourself to research things, you're uninformed, but if you do, then you're just misinformed.
My bank is my pocket. My bank's under the mattress. Because all those companies do is collect interest off you, and then if you got a couple overdraws, they take all your money from you. So, you know, it's not even worth it, man. Especially in this day and age, you need to be saving every cent you can.
Now, do we need to be fiscally prudent right away? Absolutely. I mean, we've been giving tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans for the last 25 years. That's unconscionable. That's what's gotten us into this predicament, and we're going to have to get the rich to start paying their fair share. And they're not going to do so quietly, I can assure you of that. But we're going to have to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they pay for their share of the benefit that they're deriving from our society.
Kind of an unfortunate thing, really, when we're talking about just taxing the rich. There isn't enough money to be able to fund all of the programs. It's too small of a pool, and these are some of the job creators.
We are taxing especially poor people right now, because when you inflate the currency like that, that is a tax.
We're essentially offloading programs that are legitimate public health and safety functions off of general fund and asking users to pay more. And I get why that's good for those of us in this building, but if we continue to do that, what we're essentially doing is shifting off legitimate important functions of government and asking people to pay more. Well, this is what we have a general fund for. So I know there are certain exigencies that Senator Scarp argues makes this necessary, and those in the industry want it too, but you know, if we continue to do this, essentially it's just, again, shifting our responsibilities off on the people who already pay taxes. So I'll be a no-vote on this bill.
It's going to take hard work. There's going to be pain and suffering. People are going to lose their jobs, and when you lose your job, you lose your health insurance. When you lose your health insurance, life becomes a lot less stable. There are tough times ahead. The Republicans seem to think that we can just depend on ourselves, rugged individualism. Well, that's never worked, actually. We all need to work together as a team to fix the entire economy, to work together as a community, to soften those edges where we do come in contact with one another, and we would like to be just totally all by ourselves. But the reality is, there's 300 million of us in this country, and we do rub up against one another. We got to figure out how that intersection works, and that intersection is community, and we do that through government.
Just wondered if I give you a quick sample kind of music that I make at your charge, whether it's 25 cent, 50 cent, really don't matter to me because I hate asking people for their money. 10-second beat is all I'm asking for. Beats very much worth, and if you don't like it, you ain't got to pay anything, do we? Have a deal.
Republicans have said for years, we need small government. Well, actually, that intersection defines its own size. We can't say how big or small that intersection is going to be, but government needs to be here to make sure that we all live together in peace and harmony and work towards the same goals.
I mean, I think America has been robbed. The stimulus money is funding Main Street or the common man, but at the same time, just simply going back into the hands of the rich who squandered it in the first place.
Certainly there are things that people value, and money being one of them. Sometimes it appears that those who have more money tend to have more influence, but I think that's a false theory. I think there are things that people value over money, and that things people value will win out over money.
We can never forget the things that are very most important in our lives, and that's our family, our friends, our communities. And I think during tough economic times, we get back to the basics.
It's amazing how our economy has turned both down and up on a dime just based on consumer confidence.
There's no challenge when we're presented with it that we cannot overcome once we put our minds to it. American ingenuity, Yankee ingenuity has made us the #1 economy, the #1 country that the world has ever seen.
It's just up to each one of us individually to say, you know what, I'm not going to panic, it'll be okay. I'm not going to listen to all this negative rhetoric. I'm going to put my left foot in front of my right and then my right foot in front of my left and make this work. And if all 300 million of us do that, we'll come out of this stronger than we went into it.
Does that mean that we aren't going to have some rough times, that there are going to be challenges? Obviously we are. We will continue ultimately to be able to prosper. People of the United States are the driver, and that's going to benefit the world.